Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nicole. I am with the External Affairs Department of Brookdale Hospital. Today is the third session of our Black History Month Lunch and Learn educational sessions. Today, we will be discussing financial literacy, and we are fortunate to have with us Ms. Earlene Green. She is the Manager of Financial Counseling and in the Center of Personal Finance Health at Bed-Stuy Restoration Corporation. It's a lot to say. I want to thank her in advance for joining us today, and we want to get everyone's involvement. We want to ask that everyone participate in this conversation, asks questions after the presentation is over, make this an interactive dialogue. All right, I'm going to ask that everyone please remain muted while the session is going on, and please participate in anything that you hear that you want to ask questions about. So for now, I'm going to step aside and let Ms. Green take over. You have to unmute. Ms. Green, you have to unmute.
Okay, there you go. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Earlene Green. I am the manager of the Financial Counseling and Coaching Program at Restoration, more specifically at the Center for Personal Financial Health. And I'm so happy to be with you today. And Ms. Nicole Favors, thank you so much for inviting me today. Thank you. So like Nicole said, we're going to try to make this as interactive as possible. So please feel free to share, to answer questions and to share your thoughts and ask questions as we are going through the presentation. That would be fine. Okay, so here we have the first slide. So you see we're in partnership with One Brooklyn Health. I'd like to say Happy Black History Month to everyone. And that makes this presentation even more special, knowing that we are presenting this presentation in celebration of Black History Month. So it's good to be with you. Oh, well, I have a question I'd like to ask in honor of Black History Month before we get started. So if anyone is able to answer, that would be great. I'd like to know, who is the first Black billionaire? Anyone know who the first Black billionaire is?
The lady with the heel.
We have anybody talking in the chat? Give me 1 minute.
Okay.
Did someone answer Reginald F. Lewis?
Yes, Reginald F. Lewis. Yes, he was a visionary and entrepreneur, philanthropist, and he was the first Black American or African American to build a $1 billion company, right? What about, let me see if I can get it. Okay, and so his company was called TLC Beatrice International Holdings, right? And he grew up in East Baltimore, okay? And I have one other trivia question. Who was the first Black woman millionaire? Anyone?
C.J. Madam Walker.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Madam C.J. Walker was her name, yes. And we know that she had a hair care product line, and she was the richest Black woman of her day, okay? So that was just an opening for us today. Let me tell you a little bit about Restoration. Restoration, we have a 55-year track record. Many of you who grew up in Brooklyn, you probably know something about Restoration. I know when I was 14 years old, I had my first summer youth employment job, and it happened to have been with Restoration. So it's really nice to come full circle and be able to work with them once again. But restoration, our mission is to relentlessly pursue the closing of the racial wealth gap in families and communities. In Central Brooklyn, we desire to help individuals and residents achieve financial stability and wealth. And so there are many ways in which we do that. We have services in the community that we offer free of charge to the residents. We have our care coordination team where we provide mental health screening and counseling to individuals. We offer social support and help clients who come in and who may want or need to apply for SNAP or other benefits that they may be eligible for. We assist them with housing in terms of applying for emergency rental assistance, as well as we help them to complete the application for the housing lottery. We also have health insurance that we assist our clients with. And then we have the training and placement division that help our clients to achieve financial stability through job placement and career advancement. And so we help them to revise or create their resume. We counsel them on career assessments and interview preparation. We provide mentorship and internships to individuals as well regarding skill training and development. We also have a Job Plus program that caters to NYCHA residents and NYCHA developments. And then we have the financial inclusion division, and we empower individuals by providing one-on-one financial counseling and coaching to them. So we help clients who come in and want to take control of their money and need help creating and adhering to a budget. We help those clients who are not banked to become banked in affordable institutions. We help clients to create saving strategies for those who want to increase their savings potential and or even start savings. We also help clients who come in with credit and debt issues and concerns that show up on their credit. We help clients, we provide one-on-one counseling to individuals who are interested in purchasing a home. So we have home ownership division that works closely with individuals and help navigate them through that process. We have tax preparation services. We have certified financial planners who, we refer clients to different partners, and CFPs are one of them. For clients who come in and they have really good control over their money. They're doing a great job saving. They're doing a great job with their credit report, with achieving, their goals, and they want more information about investing and making their money grow. So we have clients and partners who will work with our clients pro bono, free of charge, to provide that service as well. And I'm really happy to say that one of our other partners that we refer our clients to is Grow Brooklyn. And what they do is they work with our clients who are interested in estate planning and retirement planning. And so we know that, to do wills and living wills and power of attorneys and those kinds of things, that it costs a lot. And so our partners, through our partners, we provide those services free of charge to our clients who come in for financial coaching. So any questions about what I've said thus far? Okay, all right then. So just piggybacking off of the previous slide, just want to give you an idea that everyone who comes into our program, everybody's different. They come with a different set of circumstances and situations, but the process of financial counseling helps us to support our clients on a journey of financial health and wealth creation. So we may have clients who come in who are financially vulnerable, and here are some services that we offer. Public benefits, as I mentioned about the care coordination team, job placement, mental health services, bankruptcy counseling. And then we have clients who come in who may just be in a place of financially coping, and they may need some other services as well, such as helping with budget and helping them to devise strategies to pay down their debt. And then, the last part is what we strive to do and what we believe will help to close the racial wealth gap, which is help clients to become financially stable, right? They are in a place now where they are able to purchase homes, invest their money, prepare for their children's education, engage in, loans or whatever the case may be in order for them to get to the next level. So that's pretty much what we do, and what the organization is passionate and works so hard every day to achieve. We are committed to our clients and helping them to move from being financially vulnerable to financially coping to financially being stable. Okay, any questions? Okay, all right, so our topic today is budgeting and savings, and we will cover, here are some things that we will cover in our presentation today. We will talk about how to distinguish between needs and wants. We will learn how to align our spending habits with our goals, the benefits of a saving strategy. We will discuss different strategies to help us to build savings. We will discuss the importance of a budget and how it can help us to really take control of our finances. And we will learn tips to keep our budget relevant. And that's an important piece, because most people think that once they devise a budget, that is something that they have to stick to forever, right? But there are times when your budget may need adjusting. And so, we tell people not to get discouraged because of that. You just make the adjustment and then you continue to stick to your budget. So the first thing I want to talk about is evaluating our needs and wants. But even prior to that, and I don't have the slide, but I can say that basically what we're going to be talking about today is an overall subject of money management, right? And when we talk about money management, we're talking about the ability to gain an understanding of our financial situation in order to make the most of our assets in our day-to-day life and in the planning of our future goals and the things that we want to achieve for ourselves. And so when we talk about money management, we're talking about managing our home and the things that come along with that, our food expenses, managing our everything pretty much that we spend money on, gas, utilities, insurance, credit cards, all of that is related to money management. And so in order for us to manage our monies effectively, one of the things or the principles in money management that I like to start to discuss with you is evaluating needs and wants. Can anyone tell us what a need is and what a want is? Your definition of a need and want. Anyone?
So this is Nicole. I guess my definition from a need and a want, a need is something that something else ends up losing if I don't take care of it. A want, I may feel bad about it, but I won't die without having it.
Okay, thank you. So you're saying that a need pretty much have consequences if you're not able to meet that need, whereby a want is more of a luxury, something that is not necessary and don't really have any dire consequences if you don't get it.
Right.
Is that what I heard you say?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And yes, when we talk about needs and wants, we talk about something necessary to live and function, right? So when we look at this particular definition, you're absolutely right in the sense that if we need something, if something is seen as necessary to live and function, and if we don't have it, there could be some dire consequences. So absolutely. Can you give me an example of what a need might be? Let's just stay here for a moment. What might be an example of a need?
Shelter.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. So let's go to
Money in the
want.
chat said food.
Food, absolutely. Food is definitely a need. So let's talk about want, right? What is, so she pretty much gave a definition of both. So let me just give an official one. A want is something that can improve your life, improve the quality of your life, right? But if you don't have it, you won't necessarily endure any dire consequences, as we said earlier, right? So a want is something that can improve the quality of our lives. What are some examples of a want?
Someone in the chat said a 2023 Volvo.
2023 Volvo, absolutely, right. And so
I was just about to say that, a new car.
Or Maybach, but I'll go with the Volvo.
Okay, very good. So these are some examples. So even for a car, right, going back to that 2023 vehicle, now we might need a car, right? So that can be a need in one sense, but needing a 2023 Volvo, right, is not necessarily a need. That can be a want, right? So when we look at distinguishing between needs and wants, we got to look at the fact that, for instance, we need shelter, but do we need to live in a mansion? Right? Yes. We need food, but do we need shrimp and steak? Yes, it would be nice, right? But it's not necessary for us to have our needs met, right? And I think that's the way we need to look at this, right? So we need clothing, but we don't need designer fashions. We need utility, but we don't need a lot of entertainment, right? So a lot of us are paying utility costs in terms of our cable bill and Netflix and streaming services, right? Where we are paying more than we'd like to for those specific utilities, mainly because it's a desire that we have, it's a want that we have, and not necessarily a need, right? So any questions regarding this? Any questions regarding needs and wants? Okay, so the thing that I want to point out about needs and wants is that in order to manage our monies effectively, we want to just make sure that our needs and wants are balanced, right? And when I say balanced, I mean that we want to make sure that we are not spending so much money on our wants that, first of all, our needs are not being met, and that we are not spending so much on our wants that we have nothing left over at the end of the month from our income to do other things. Other things could be achieving some of the goals that we set for ourselves. Most likely, any goal that we have is going to cost some kind of money, whether it's traveling, going on vacation, whether it's purchasing a home, buying a vehicle, or anything like that. It's going to cost some money. So when we are not mindful to at least consider how we're spending our money and how much of it we are spending on needs versus wants, then we may end up being surprised at the end of the month when there's nothing left over, right? So another thing I want to point out when it comes to need versus wants, right, is that oftentimes there are items that one person may consider as a need, whereby another person may consider as a want, okay? Can you give me any examples of that? Any examples where one person may see it as a need and the other may see it as a want? Anyone?
Somebody
What about
looking, someone who's, if someone is homeless, then the idea of any home is a need. But if you have something, it's probably a bigger home, the more is more the want.
Right, right. Okay, okay, good, good. And what about a cell phone? Right? I remember when I first started teaching financial literacy, maybe 20 years ago now. And the way that experts were defining a need was something necessary to survive, right? And a want was something that was not necessary for survival. And as time began to change, that definition began to broaden, right? And so people today see cell phones differently than they did back then. Back then, 20 years ago, when you would say a phone is a want and not a need, that was pretty much the general consensus, right? But now, how are we feeling about phones today? Do we still see it as a want as opposed to a need?
It's more of a need now because most people don't have home phones.
Yeah, exactly. That's definitely one instance where it has become a need, when people have eliminated their landlines, right? But what's another instance? Any other instances where you see cell phones as a need as opposed to a want?
A lot of parents. Oh, hi. Sorry, I'm Charlotte speaking.
Sure.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. A lot of parents feel like their children need like phones too to go to school nowadays, like especially the younger children. I remember like my first cell phone was when I was like 15, and now I see kids going to school at like 10 and 11 with cell phones. because, you know, things that happen with, you know, school shootings, stuff like that. So they feel like it's a need for their children, especially in living in these areas of Brooklyn where they want to be able to reach out to their kids, you know, stuff like that.
Bingo. And that's exactly what I was looking for, right?
Someone in the chat said after 9/11.
After 9/11 especially, yes. Families feel the need to stay connected to each other, especially with our young people. And so that now becomes a need. I need my daughter to pick up the phone and let me know where she is at a certain time of the day. I need to know that my mother, who is elderly, is doing okay because she's living by herself, right? When she's out in the streets or when I cannot get her in the house, right? So there are many reasons why phones today are need versus wants. And the purpose of this exercise is not really to tell one person what should be a need of yours or what should be a want, right? Because it varies from person to person and only you get to determine that. But the purpose of this is really to get us to kind of determine what percentage of our spending goes towards needs versus what percentage of our spending goes toward wants, right? And if you have a substantial percentage of your income that's going towards wants, you might want to consider reducing those expenses and maybe putting some more money back into your budget so that you can do something more substantial with, something more productive, something that will align more with the goals that you set for yourself, okay? Because I'm sure that you all could agree with me when I say that sometimes we have a tendency of letting our spending get out of control. And so being mindful to look at both your needs and wants is a way for us to kind of reel that back in and help us to manage our monies in a way that will, again, align with the goals and the expectations that we have in terms of what we'd like to achieve in life. But people determine needs and wants based on their values, right? And the values are just beliefs and practices that are important to us. So lots of things influence our values. It can be family, it can be church, it can be friends and teachers, and so on and so forth. But when we understand what our values are, that is going to help give us perspective in terms of balancing our spending, right? For instance, if education is important to me, I am going to make sure that I have as much money available to pay for education as possible. And in doing that, I'm going to spend little money in other areas, specifically in the areas of my wants, because spending money on things that I want that may depreciate in value, that may not have any significance to what I want to do or where I want to go or what I want to achieve, it wouldn't make sense to me, right? So, so the point is to be mindful of what your values are so that your values can dictate your spending, okay? Any questions about that? Any questions? Okay, just want to make sure that we, again, understand that our values, the amount of money we spend in our wants should not super exceed our needs. And when we really think about it, we don't need a whole lot, right? It's the wants that we want a whole lot of, right? So, you know, just be mindful to balance your spending and to keep your goals in mind and make sure that your spending is aligned with that particular goal. And before we move on, in order to do that, to apply these principles, right? This specific principle, distinguishing between needs and wants, it's important to ask ourselves, what is my relationship with money? Right? What is my relationship with money? Because we all have relationships with money, and all of our relationships are different. So that's the question I want to ask, and I want to get some feedback from you in terms of your understanding of what your relationship with money is. So can I get some volunteers to share with us your relationship with money?
It's a tool.
It's a tool. You see it as a tool. Absolutely. Money is definitely a tool. Yes. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else? Do you have a healthy relationship with money? Do you feel you have an unhealthy relationship with money? And if so, why?
One of the things that I've noticed with some people is like when you don't have it, it seems like the most important thing in the world. But you also start learning other ways to get the things that you want when you don't have it. You become a little bit more creative when it's not easy to just buy something.
Right. Okay. Okay, good. Money actually, it does invokes feelings, right? It invokes emotions. Because if you have money, how do you feel? How do you feel when you have money? Just throw some things out there.
Good.
Happy, of course.
Yes. Happy,
Powerful.
good. What was that last one?
Powerful.
Powerful. Yes. What are some other emotions that we feel when we have money?
Somebody put in the chat, relationship is like two failed marriages. Can't seem to hold on to it.
Agreed.
That's a great analogy. Okay. All right. So how do we feel when we don't have money? How do we feel? I'm sure everybody on this line has not had money at some point, right? Or very
Stressed.
little.
They put in the chat, depressed, anxious.
Yes.
Embarrassed.
Absolutely.
Unsure of the
Embarrassed.
future.
Yes. Yes. All of those things and more, right?
Hopeless.
And hopeless. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. And I think the thing that we need to remember, right, is that money may make us or bring us to the point of feeling those emotions, right? But money shouldn't make one person more valuable than another. And money shouldn't even remove the value that we ourselves have, right? Because like we said, it's a tool. So no matter how much we have or how little we have, it does not change the value that we have in this world and as a person, right? So yes, money gives us options. It gives us independence. It even gives us opportunities, right? So when we have options, we get to choose, right? We get to choose what we want. We get to choose how we want to live, where we want to live, and the lifestyle we want to live, right? And that's a great thing, to be able to make that choice by yourself. For instance, when we don't have money to send our kids to school, we may not be able to send them to the college of their choice, right? The college that's going to provide them with a really great college education experience, or better yet, that is going to prepare them for the future in the career that they actually desire, right? So money does provide those options for us. And in terms of independence, when we have money, we get to maintain our independence, right? We don't have to rely on social services, or we don't have to rely on our family members to provide for us. We could depend on ourselves and not on others. And we have the freedom from the control, right? From the sometimes negative influence and the demands and the support of others, right? And so, you know, we get to dictate our own lives when we have that independence. And then when we have opportunities, when money provides opportunities, we know it creates opportunities for us to do some things that we may, or to give us exposure that we may not ordinarily have been privy to, right? Like even traveling, right? When we have those opportunities to travel and go see the world, or go into places where, you know, the majority of people or a large portion of people, percentage of people may not have ever, you know, be able to travel. But even the thing that I like also about the opportunities aspect of money is that it allows you to meet people outside of your circle that you may not ordinarily be in contact with, right? And so it also allows you to plan the future that you actually see for yourself.
There's
Okay.
there's a message in the chat that says one is perceived as successful based on materialistic things you've obtained.
Yes.
The money you had to get it.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And some of us have those unhealthy relationships with money. What would you consider to be an unhealthy relationship with money? And what would you consider to be a healthy relationship with money? We all have relationships with money. Just think about the one that you have with money, and whether or not you deem it to be healthy or unhealthy, and why.
So if everything in life is supposed to be like a value judgment, I would guess the unhealthy relationship is when you're willing to put anyone else at harm's way just to get cash.
Yes, yes. Great example. Great example. And there's a lot of us out here that does that, right? And
Mhm.
oftentimes feeling that way and having that conviction is what oftentimes create high crime rates, right?
Mhm.
And so not to mention so many other things, right? Anybody else? Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else?
We have in the chat, unhealthy if your friends are around only based on how much you have or spend.
Right, right. So how is that unhealthy for that person though? How is the money unhealthy for that person? How is their relationship with money unhealthy at that point, when that kind of scenario exists?
The friends are using them.
Right. And they allow them to use it, right? So they allow themselves to have an unhealthy relationship with money because they use money to buy to buy friendship, right? And to see themselves as valuable, they use their money to entice others, you know, and that's true for many of us, right? That's true for many of us. So having a healthy relationship with money means that you understand how money works. It means using your money to help maintain good health, right? You know, doing or living a stress-free life, right? Not always being
Right, 'cause
stressed over
that leads
money
to
and what you
emotional.
have. I'm sorry?
I'm sorry,
Someone said,
no, I'm sorry, my mic was wrong. I'm sorry.
Okay, okay.
You do
And
have another
having,
message in the chat. Unhealthy is
sure,
spending more than you have, where you're going to these fast lending companies that are set up in poor neighborhoods.
right, right. So having a healthy, unhealthy relationship is positioning yourself to be preyed upon, right, by predatory lenders and other lenders and individuals who would take advantage of your vulnerability, your financial vulnerability, which is what we talked about earlier, right? And so
I feel like
go ahead.
I'm sorry, if you're
I'm
not
sorry. I
answering
feel
the
like a lot
question,
of
please.
companies,
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
I feel like a lot of companies like set us up for financial failure though, because just like the person just said in the chat, like a lot of these companies will try to gravitate people to them, like especially like car places and stuff like that. When they're like, you know, bad credit, whatever credit, no credit, we'll come in, we'll approve you for a car. And knowing these people credits are already shot and you come in and you put yourself in more debt. So a lot of these companies also try to keep you in debt more than you already are.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's why you have to have a good relationship with money. You have to manage your money effectively. When you are in that position, then you will not find yourself vulnerable to these individuals, right? Because there are those organizations who, again, prey on financially vulnerable people, right? And so when you are managing your money effectively, you will not find yourself exposed to that, right? Vulnerable to that, you know, given in to that, desperate enough to, you know, accept what it is someone is offering you, even though you know it's going to perhaps make your situation even more worse, right? But sometimes when you are in need, you need what you need, right? And you allow yourself to accept what is offered because it's going to meet a need now at this moment, and you don't have the bandwidth to think about how this is going to affect you 6 months or 1 year or 2 years down the road. And that's real, you know. And so, you know, what we want to do is try to prevent from finding ourselves in those situations.
You have two more messages in the chat. Keeping up with the Joneses, trying to impress others, and using neighborhood ATM machines and not realizing that you are being charged 2 times or 3 times at each use.
Right, absolutely. I mean, I know when I first started my bank accounts, right? I didn't do any research. I didn't understand the difference between the banks and where I should put my money. I didn't really do any research on that. I ended up putting my money in banks, commercial banks, that didn't really cater to my needs, that didn't really cater to my income at the time. And so opening up these accounts at these banks were very unaffordable for me because it required me to maintain a minimum required balance that I couldn't maintain at the time. And that's a lot of us are doing that. We don't compare banks and look at their fees and look at you know, the different things that they charge us for, and look at what's required from us in terms of maintaining minimum required balances, even in terms of bounce check fees, right? And so, you know, what happens is when you open up an account and put your money into an unaffordable account, the bank usually ends up eating up your money. You're putting your money in the bank to save, and they're taking out fees every single month. Why in the world would we pay the bank money, right? To just keep our money in our account. So I would encourage all of us, if we have, and this is what we talk to our clients about, if you have banking accounts, which is great. If you have a checking and savings, that's great. But if you find yourself paying them fees every month to maintain that account, you need to switch banks. You need to select affordable banking accounts, okay? And today, our young people are not even interested in traditional banks anymore, a lot of them, right? They are interested in fintech banks and other online institutions, financial institutions, right? So my point is that there are a slew of options available to us. We don't have to allow banking institutions to eat up our hard-earned money, okay? All right, so let's move on. Okay, let's talk about spending habits, right? So some of the questions that we need to ask ourselves when it comes to spending habits is, are we currently unable to even save money, right? Have we reached the limit on our credit cards? Are we able to make the minimum required payments on our credit cards only, right? Are we buying things to simply make us feel good? Are we consistently borrowing from our savings? And do we have an emergency account in the event that an emergency happens? We don't have to go and pull everything out of our savings account in order to meet that emergency expense, right? So, if the answer is yes to most or all of these questions, then it's time to look at our spending habits. Even if we look at what's coming in every month and what's going out every month, and we see that we have a negative cash flow or less than $100 cash flow at the end of every month, then it's important for us to reevaluate our spending habits, because we might be spending frivolously, we might be spending habitually, we might be spending in ways that will take us off track from reaching our goals and aligning our spending with our goals, right? And so one of the things we need to ask ourselves is, which one am I? Am I a spender or am I a saver? Okay. All of us should know that about ourselves, right? Again, that goes with understanding what a healthy relationship with our money is all about. So that's the question I like to pose to some of you, to all of you. So if I could get some volunteers to tell me, which one are you?
Somewhere in the middle.
Somewhere in the middle. Okay. So you balance your spending between being a spender and a saver. Okay, very good. Okay, anybody else?
Somebody put in the chat, spend.
Okay, all right, okay. And so let me ask the why, right? When you think of spending, do you understand the why of your spending? And that's for the person who put that in the chat. If you could respond to that. Or anyone else who feels like, they spend a little more than save.
I know for
What is
myself,
the why?
I know for
Mhm.
myself, I can save enough to take care of what I have to take care of so that I'm not behind. But
Okay.
I know I end up spending, when I say I'm somewhere in the middle, because I know I'll end up buying something because it'll be, oh God, I always wanted that. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
And I have the cash to be able to buy it. And then it's like, okay, do I really want to go ahead and spend the cash on that? Or am I going to look at
Mhm.
it as an investment in myself? I got to figure it out.
Okay. Okay. Very good. All right. Anyone else?
I'm definitely one of those spenders that like I take care of everything that I'm supposed to take care of first, but I'm definitely an emotional spender. Like if I'm going
Mhm.
through something stressful in life and I'm just like, honestly, I'm not at the gym or I'm not at no other outlet, I'm definitely
Mhm.
online shopping somewhere. So I am definitely an emotional shopper.
Okay. Okay. Good. And do you find that even being an emotional shopper has allowed you to move away from the goals that you set for yourself, or has it brought you toward the goals that you have for yourself?
It's definitely brought me away.
Okay.
I could be
Okay.
saving that money versus me spending it on something I really don't need.
Okay. Okay. So what do you think is your priority?
As far as money goes,
Yes, as far as achieving your goal versus catering to the emotions of spending.
I don't know. Like I've always felt like as long as my main things are paid for, I never
Right.
really take that into account. I never really look at it that way. I'm like, as
Okay.
long as my rent is paid, as long as my car is paid, as long as this is paid, then I always feel like I work so hard that I
Right.
deserve to spend it on myself. So
Right.
I guess that's what kind of like pushes me towards it.
Right. Okay. And thank you for sharing that, because I ask you that question because there's so many of us, right, that are in the same that have the same perspective and mindset in terms of how you're spending your money, right? A lot of people feel that, and I hear my clients say, I'm going to spend money because I'm able to meet my goals, not my goals, I'm able to meet my household expenses. And, I work hard every day and I deserve to do whatever it is I want to do and spend money on the things I want to spend. And you absolutely do. You absolutely deserve to spend money on yourself. You absolutely work hard and want to attain some things that only money can buy. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. I just want to point out the fact that in addition to that, many of us have habits, right? We have habits when it comes to money, and they're not necessarily good habits, right? They can be bad habits that we have, that when we acknowledge that although I'm able to take care of my household with the money and the spending that I'm doing, I acknowledge that I could be doing so much more, right? I could be investing my money so it can grow. I could be opening up an insurance policy, right? So I can leave a legacy behind. I could be establishing a business. I could be doing other things. I could be buying a house, investing in real estate somewhere else, even if I'm not living in it, right? So to acknowledge that there was so much more that you can do with your money that could build assets for you, right? And help you to accumulate wealth. and not live on an earn and spend treadmill when emergencies arises. And that's another thing that you can do with your money, is establish a really healthy emergency account, at least 6 to 7 to 1 year's worth of monthly household expenses. So that if you, God forbid, you were to lose your job, or God forbid you got sick and couldn't work, you don't have to worry about depleting all of your savings. You have an emergency fund that you can tap into for 6 months to a year, if not more. So when we understand that, yes, we're spending and we deserve to spend money, let's be thoughtful about how we're spending. Let's have some balance and control on how it is we are spending, because I acknowledge that there are more things that I can do with my money. I could achieve and attain more assets, right? And so, so many, and I know, just like I used to be an emotional eater, not really bad to the point where I blew up, but you know, if I'm emotional, I used to go and eat a piece of candy or eat some cookies or something, right? So there are several triggers that we have in life that causes us to behave a certain way. And retail therapy, which is what you are actually referring to, I have a cousin who passed away a couple of years ago, and she used to call me and tell me, girl, I had retail therapy today. So based on her emotions and how she was feeling, she would spend money too, and call it, I guess it was a trend at the time, and they deemed it or coined it retail therapy, right? Shopping when you are emotional. But there are some things that we could think about doing. Just like we can replace bad habits with good habits, there are some things, some safeguards that we can put in place when we become emotional and want to spend money that we really don't want to spend, right? So let's just be mindful of that, and know that there are some things and some changes that we could make in order for us to spend more, to manage our monies more effectively, and develop assets and plan for our future. I said a lot just now. Anybody have questions? Anybody want to chime into that?
You have 2 messages in the chat. The first is, I maxed out my 401 and then travel. The second message is, credit cards allowed to just online spending.
Yes. And you know, when we know that we are in trouble, or when we know that there's a potential for trouble with our money, there are some things that we can do, right? So if you find yourself using your credit card more often than you like, and you've come to a point where you say, I can't afford to put any more, I can't afford to put any more money on this particular card, right? And I am making a decision today to not put any more money on this card, and until at least I pay down what's already on here, which is going to take me another 12 months or 15 months. Then what you can do to help support that is you can cut up that credit card. You don't have to have access to it. Give it to somebody you trust to hold on to it for you, if you trust them that much. But cut it up. You don't have to close your account, because we advise our clients, don't close your accounts when you have good credit history. That's only going to reduce your credit FICO score, okay? Your credit score, your FICO score. So keep that open, even if you don't want to spend on it for the next 12 months to 15 months, right? You can cut it up when you made your payments and you now have a zero balance, or a balance that you're comfortable having, and a balance that you could afford to pay every month. Then you can call them up and say, you know, I lost my card. could you replace it? That's it, and then you can start using it again. So that's just one example of some choices that you can make to help support your desire to kind of put some things under control and, to tailor or taper, I should say, your spending. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. All right. So spending habits. Okay. This is a reflection of a spender, right? Someone who might not have control over their finances. There's no savings. There's limits on your credit cards, but you're going way above the 30% credit utilization ratio, and you are at the top of that limit on that credit card. When you're making minimum monthly payments, because you know that when you make minimum monthly payments, it's going to take you that much longer to pay off your balance. And in the interim, you're paying the bank all of this interest. That's what they count on. That's how they make their money. Okay. And we don't need to help the bank make their money. When we're buying to feel good, which is what we talked about already, being an emotional spender, buying and returning items all the time, borrowing from savings, when our income exceeds 20%, when our spending exceeds 20% of our take-home pay, when we are denied credit, when we apply for credit, and when our FICO score is really low. These are indications that we are going to have to sit down and have a get real conversation with ourselves about our money management and about our spending habits. And we're going to have to not only acknowledge where we are, but we're going to have to make some choices that will help take us in a totally different direction, right? And some people will say you have to make sacrifices. I don't tell my clients they have to make sacrifices, because sacrifices, the word has a negative connotation. I like to and then when you say sacrifices, the people immediately think about giving up one thing in order to have another, right? And I'd like my clients to think about choices, just simply making choices based on your values, based on your priorities, based on the goals that you want to set for yourself. Okay. Any questions about that? Okay, and so this list is an example of someone who's spending their money pretty wisely. They make a gift list and check it twice. Makes you kind of think about Christmas, right? But making a gift list is important, because when we fail to make a gift list, we are given gifts throughout the year, and we are not monitoring that, and we are not capping our spending, and we are not planning our spending in advance, right? But those of us who do that, those are those of us who are practicing wise spending. Okay. And then we track what we spend, right? One way to track what we spend is via a budget. And we're going to talk about that. Knowing exactly where your money is going helps you to keep control of your spending. And that's why you track it. They have so many opportunities for us to do that today, including bank apps and other apps that are available. Shop early and take your time so you spend the right amount of money. Be creative, be thoughtful in your gift giving. Everybody don't need you to spend $200 or $100 in a gift. Be creative and give people things that are practical, right? That may not be as expensive. Delay some purchases. And when we talk about that, we talk about practicing the art of delayed gratification as opposed to instant gratification. watch other expenses, talk over a tight budget, start saving for next year, keeping your giving in perspective. Any questions regarding that list? Any comments? Okay, savings. Okay, savings is something that people oftentimes see as a punishment. They oftentimes see themselves faced with hardships that they cannot overcome, and therefore they convince themselves that savings is not something they could do. I can't tell you how many clients I see every day. When we ask about savings, they say they don't have any savings. But when I press them, they say, oh, okay, well, I have $50, right? And so what I say to them is that if you have only $10 in a savings account, be excited about that $10 because that $10 can grow, right? You can grow from there, right? You can strategize and create a savings plan from there, right? So don't think that because you only have $10 that it's not worth mentioning or that you don't see it as savings. See it as savings so that you could work a plan, create a plan to continue to build upon that, right? So, you know, there's always potential for savings, and savings is the difference between the amount of your net income and the amount that you spend. Savings and investments is what's going to help you to create, you know, to achieve the goals that you want and to create some kind of financial stability for yourselves. And in this slide, we see that there are so many things that we can save for: pension, college, vacation, medical, and house, and so many others. How many of us on the call today feel that they are doing a good job with savings, and how many of you today feel that you're not doing the kind of job that you would like to do, and why?
I've gotten better. I found out late last year that Capital One, where I already had an account, was offering a significant interest rate if you opened a CD for at least 2 years. And so putting that money there and not being able to touch it is helping to build a lot of the savings that I have.
Yes, absolutely. And how is that making you feel?
Oh, it feels great because I'm kind of calculating what is going to be on the other side, and I know what it is that I'm supposed to be doing with that money. So
Right.
I learned a long time ago that it's usually helpful to have a plan for every penny that you get. So this way you don't unnecessarily lose it.
Right.
So I have the plan for what that money is going to be used for. So watching it grow is fantastic.
Good. And, you know, watching it grow, going back to emotions, right? It helps you to feel more confident in your future. It helps you to be more comfortable where you are with your money and how you're spending your money. And it helps give you a level of peace, right? Knowing that you are on the right track.
Yeah.
Right. So very good. Good for you. Anybody else?
I captured the house, the college, the kids are finished with college, so I'm focusing on the pension and the vacation at this point.
Good. And so how are you doing? I mean, is it growing at the pace that you anticipated? Are there distractions or barriers?
The pension for these past 2 years was a problem because I put the full amount that was allowed, and then it disappeared in the market. So I was a bit,
Yes.
I was a bit overwhelmed with that.
Yes. Absolutely. And that's not just your story, that's the story for many of us, right? And so you know, but you know, we pray for a bounce back, right? We pray for a bounce back. And we got to, think about other things that might complement our pension, right? And we have certified financial counselors, as I said, that we can refer our clients to, who you can talk with and specifically talk about some fail-safe plans or just some other plans. Because I don't know if anything is really fail-safe, but just to talk about some other options that you could explore that will help you to supplement your pension and help you to create additional plans for your retirement. Okay, so there are some things out there. But savings is definitely going to help protect us against unexpected events. I remember during Hurricane Katrina, hearing people who were just, their home was just devastated, right? People asked them, they were interviewed by the media, and they were asked, well, there were warnings. Why didn't you leave? Why didn't you leave? And one person said that he didn't have the money to leave, right? He had no savings, right? And there was nothing for him to tap into that would allow him to leave where it was he was. So where he was. So we never know. Even here in New York, we may not have the kind of disasters that they have in certain other states, particularly Louisiana, but you never know when an unexpected event is going to occur. So having savings, substantial savings, and having an emergency fund, it cannot be overstated, right? Having savings is what allows us to sleep at night when the brakes need to be replaced in the morning, right? It's a means of us achieving greater financial security. And we already talked about, a way for us to achieve our goals. So let's just keep planning. Okay, are you prepared for an emergency? We talked about that. There are different kinds of emergencies. It's a rainy day fund. My mom taught me about this when I was knee-high to a bottom, right? And I didn't always practice it, but I learned the need to do that, and made that a part of my saving strategy, right? So let's see. Budget. We're going to talk about the budget and why we need to create a budget. So a budget is a summary of our planned expenses compared to our planned income for a predetermined period of time. A budget is simply a plan for spending, right? It's a plan that we use for spending. When we look at our income and we minus our expenses, we see exactly what's left, right? As you get older, your income and expenses will grow in terms of both dollars and complexity. Large purchases cannot be made spontaneous. They require a plan to pay for them. Even furniture. Someone I was talking to the other day wanted to buy furniture for the new apartment that she's going to live in, and she wanted to use some of her money from her credit card, but she didn't have a high balance. So we talked about, let's pay off this balance, and then you can establish an installment loan, right? Because she needed a mix of credit. So start an installment loan from a furniture store, because if you get it from a furniture store, you will more likely be able to get no down payment and deferred payment in terms of interest for maybe 12 to 18 months, right? And in the interim, you're adding to your credit mix an installment loan, and you're not taking out a personal loan, which will be high interest right now today. Probably 12, 18, 20%, right? That you have to pay them. So there are different ways that you could achieve your goal and work out your plans. You just have to explore more than just one way of doing it, right? So when we look at the budget, we negotiate, agree on the budget. We monitor that budget, and then we prepare the budget. And it simply looks like this. This is the budget basics. In terms of your income, you're going to calculate or take into consideration your earned income, your portfolio income, any money that you borrow or that people have to give you every single month, right? Take all of your income minus your expenses. You have fixed expenses, and those expenses, they occur the same amount every month. You have your variable expenses. Your variable expenses are the ones that occur. What you pay every month is really based on your usage, right? Like even your light and your gas, you don't pay the same every month if you use it differently every month. If one month you decide, I'm not going to keep these lights on as often as I keep them on throughout the day, at the end of the month, you're going to see that your utility bill is going to be less than the month before, right? So your variable expenses are based on your usage. Even when you buy gas for your car, you decide one month, I am not going to drive my car as frequently as I did the month before. Then clearly, the next month, you're not going to be spending so much money in gas because you didn't use up the gas in your car like you normally do, right? And then you have flexible expenses, and flexible expenses are those expenses that may happen periodically, like maybe once a year or every 6 months or every quarter, right? You just divide that total by 12 and you can factor in what it's going to cost you monthly in terms of your budget. And so surplus or shortfall. So when you look at your income and you manage your expenses, what's left is called your cash flow. You can have a surplus of cash flow, or you can have a shortfall of cash flow. A surplus is a positive cash flow. A shortfall is a negative cash flow. If you have a negative cash flow at the end of the month, you don't have any money to do anything else, right? You don't have money to put toward your goal. You don't have money to put into a savings or an emergency fund. You don't have money to put into anything else as it relates to achieving your goal, right? So that's what we need to look at in terms of getting those numbers, knowing what our financial numbers are, knowing what your FICO score is, knowing what your cash flow is at the end of the month, knowing what your balance sheet is, right? When you look at your assets and you minus liabilities, what the total amount that you owe, what is left, right? Is it a negative? Are you operating in the negative, or are you operating in the positive? Okay. So making a budget, we just talked about that. How to construct a budget. Some people do their budgets every month. You can do your budgets every quarter. It really depends on what works for you. There's no one size fits all in this instance. So you just project your income, project your expenses, and then you will get an idea of what's going to be left over. And when you do your budget, you're going to have to look at what's happening now. Do a budget based on all of your expenses now and all of your income now. Then you can look at that budget and see where you are spending more than you'd like to spend. You're looking to see where you can possibly reduce your spending, right? In order to add more money back into your budget, especially if you have a negative cash flow, right? There are some choices that you can make in order to make sure that your expenses does not exceed your income. For some of us, we may have to get a different kind of job, earning a different kind of income. For some of us, it's just a matter of reducing what it is we're spending and how it is we're spending now. So there are variations as to, what you can do to make sure or to ensure that you have a positive cash flow at the end of every month. Okay. And again, these are just some examples. of what fixed incomes are, fixed expenses are, the variable and the fixed. Let's see, when considering potential purchases, ask yourself, what are the possible impacts of this purchase? Okay, and this is when we consider the costs and the benefits of each of our purchases, right? Because this also is aligned with asking ourselves that question, is this a need that I have or is it a want, right? And so when you ask yourself this kind of a question, it might lead you to making a decision not to make the purchase, okay? But it may also lead you to making that purchase, but at least you can say that it was thoughtful, right? And that is going to benefit you in whatever way you deem is going to benefit you. Okay. When it comes to budgeting, there is the 50-30-20 budgeting rule. There are several rules out there. Whatever works for you is what works for you. But when you look at your wants shouldn't exceed more than 30%. Of your income. Your savings should be at least 20% minimum, and your needs should be at least 50%. Okay. When you break it all down, we have it here as well. You're looking at the income from different sources. You're looking at the expenses, which represents 50%, the wants 30, and the savings 20. So it's just another way of looking at it. And when we look at today and all across this country with inflation, and when we look at budgeting specifically in New York City, we see that 65% now of our income is going toward needs, right? I said earlier that, it wasn't too long ago when, our budget didn't take up so much of our needs, right? Because our needs were always so much less than our wants. But because of inflation and what's going on today, we find ourselves spending, the average families find themselves spending 65% of their income and needs. And that's not a surprise to us, considering what housing costs today, right? And then 25% on want and 10% on savings. So when I look at this, I see that although 25% may not seem like a lot in terms of your want, it more should probably go towards savings, because the savings is only 10%. So we see a lot of people aren't in a position to do a lot of saving, or are not making the choice to do a lot of savings today. Okay. But, we know that, savings is very important, and we just going to have to balance between the two and make sure that our saving strategy matches and aligns with what it is we want for ourselves. And then when you do a budget, just be aware that there are budget busters, unexpected expenses. Sometimes when you do a budget, make sure it's realistic. If not, you're not going to be able to stick with it. And we help you to do that as a financial counselor, or in the financial counseling program. We help you to create a budget that is smart, that's realistic, it's specific, it's measurable. It is attainable, it is realistic, and it has a time bound, okay? So that the budget becomes something that you can live with, and something that will benefit you in the long run, okay? And I think that is pretty much all that we have for today. Here is my email address and my phone number. If you wanted to get in contact with me, you can go to nyc.gov, Talk Money, that website there, where you can schedule a financial counseling session with one of the financial counselors or with me. It allows you to choose the counselor that you like. So any questions at this point? We're finished with the presentation, but if you have any last minute comments or questions, please feel free to ask. And I hope this was really helpful to you. I hope it gave you some food for thought. And, again, just, information that will cause you to effectively make some decisions that will effectively help you to manage your money.
You have a message in the chat that says, can you provide some areas one can invest in so that there can be some returns on our income? I think you may need to contact Ms. Green after this session to find out a little bit more information about that. We have actually exhausted our hour and a half. So I know there's going to be a lot. There's going to be a lot of information that has come out of what we've learned today. But do we have any other questions right now based on the presentation that we had? No?
Okay.
Okay. Well, Ms. Green, I want to thank you for joining us today for our workshop. Everyone, you have her contact information on your screen right now. To those of you who are on the phone and cannot see it, the website is nyc.gov/talkmoney, and her email address is egreen@restorationplaza.org. Telephone number is 929-432-3332. Again, that's 929-432-3332. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for our third Black History Month session. We appreciate you all coming. And thank you. If you have any questions, please reach out to Ms. Green with anything else that you have questions about. Thank you so much.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you, Ms. Green.
You're welcome. Thank you.